What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Funnel Vision Show. I am very excited for today's guest because we're going to dive into something every single agency owner really needs help with, which is how do I get out of the project management side of the business? You hire account managers, you hire project managers to try to remove some of these things off of your plate, but it never kind of goes according to plan for most agency owners. And today's guest is an expert at leveling up project managers to really help the agency owner remove a lot of stuff off their plate. Galen Low is the guest today. Thank you so much, Galen, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
I'm excited to chat with you because, like I said, it's something agency owners really struggle with. And how to, it's easy to have a project manager. It's hard to have a project manager that actually helps alleviate stuff off your plate, truly. So as we always do with the Funnel Vision Show, tell me your not so humble bragging rights. So tell me what you've been able to do for clients. Tell me what you've done as a business. In other words, why should people kind of tune in and really listen to this episode?
Yeah, fair enough. All right. My humble brag is that we've created a community and a training program for digital project managers. We've certified over 700 agency professionals, and we've got agency clients reporting as much as 60 to 70% reductions in project budget and timeline overruns, which fundamentally leads to more profit and just less stressful, less chaotic business. So that, and I guess the sort of punchline here, anecdotally, we've been able to give agency owner operators a little bit more confidence to step away from the trenches of project delivery. We hear it anecdotally all the time. They're like, you know what? I hadn't felt like I could step away. I felt like I had to always be watching it. I was always waiting for something to go wrong. Now I can step away, focus on growing the business, and entrust my project managers to help grow the business by running projects well.
Oh man, that's impressive. 700 agencies. And yeah, I mean, being able to, we start an agency because we want a little bit more freedom. We don't want to work for somebody else. And then we end up working for all of our clients because we can't figure out how to do that. So before, we dive into the ins and outs of how you help level up these project managers, let's take a step back. Let's humble you a little bit because you certainly didn't start with 700 certified agencies. So let's take a step back, walk us through a little bit of that journey. Like, how did you get into this? How did you, were you running your own agency before? Walk us through the journey of getting to this.
Perfect. Yeah. Let me give you I'll give you the quick origin story. So I am a former agency project manager. I was running multi-million-dollar web application builds and digital transformation initiatives in healthcare, in government, in transit, and in retail, all within sort of an agency context. It wasn't my agency. I was just sort of a project manager within that. But what I ended up doing was I ended up taking on a bit more of an agency leadership role and various business development roles. And I got this different perspective on the role of projects within the context of a client services-based business model. And it was a little bit enlightening to me. And so as I sort of exited the agency space, I felt myself compelled to help found the Digital Project Manager, which fundamentally is a knowledge sharing community and a training provider. We are hell bent on helping project professionals get skilled, get confident, and get connected so that they can lead complex digital projects that achieve real impact. And I think that was kind of like my sort of origin story in a nutshell. But here's the humbling bit. Because project management, especially agency project management, is very much a learn on the job kind of profession. At least that was my experience. I learned by putting my hand on different parts of the stove every day and figuring out how to avoid that pain next time. And honestly, I just always felt like there was a better way for project managers at agencies, especially, to just hone their craft quickly without putting an agency's best projects and most valuable client relationships at risk. So we did a little bit of an experiment. We were like, it was almost like therapy for us. We're like, what if we were to build a course that was essentially our dream onboarding, like the training that we wish that we had for ourselves and for our teams when we were working in agencies. And that meant we focused a little bit on some of the different stuff, not the technical practices necessarily, and not all the textbook theory, but more of a focus on like instinct and judgment and the leadership skills, and fundamentally an understanding of the business context that we're working within in order to sort of get what the goal is, not to deliver a project on time, on budget, within scope, make the client happy, but how do we help grow the business? How do we deliver more value to more people? And honestly, we kind of got lucky. So we kind of put all of our stories of pain together in a course. And our first iteration, it was pretty scrappy, but it caught fire kind of by accident. Like our marketing was rudimentary at best, and our networks were not especially deep. Like I wasn't, talking to all the top, agency owners in the world, but the program did resonate with the people who found out about it. And I think part of the appeal was that it was so practical, right? It was hands-on, it was raw, it was, it recognized how complex and political and chaotic the role can be. And it really just focused on helping PMs avoid the usual traps when like navigating digital projects by putting this sort of like business lens on their role. And so we did get a bunch of people signing up, especially agencies, medium-sized agencies mostly. And we weren't really expecting that. That wasn't really our intent. Our intent was, how can project managers learn the craft with less pain? But we started seeing that agencies, saw a lot of positive results. I had some teams come back to me. There was one team that, they were seen very much as this like low-value cost center as project managers. And they ended up like getting certified. And, with that, not solely with that, but they found themselves at the leadership table, really just sort of helping to shape the agency strategy through project delivery. But I think sort of the sort of humbling bit about the story was that our course was just not the right shape. So it was cohort based, which means we could only run it 4 times a year. And the curriculum was like a huge time suck. It was a big time commitment. It was very hands-on to the point where it was almost like a second job. And it was too big of a time commitment. When you're talking about billable hours for your team, for a project management team, it was not viable for a lot of agencies to sink that kind of time and sort of put these projects on hold or limit the capacity of their project managers to kind of get them trained. So we started to see sales falter, and interest started to wane, and we saw folks kind of go more in favor of like general project management programs from folks like the Project Management Institute and Google's Coursera course. And we were honestly starting to lose product market fit, not because the demand wasn't there from like the agencies. Like very much, I think there was still that problem to be solved of project managers kind of not quite getting it, being seen as more administrative, not being entrusted to grow the business because there wasn't really that sort of responsibility given to them, but fundamentally because our product was the wrong shape. So we revamped the course completely. We recognized, where we were faltering, and it was a bit of a slog. We updated all the curriculum, and the course was always online, but now it's completely self-paced, meaning that agencies can just send new hires and recently promoted project coordinators through the course at any time. And we also have different learning options as well based on learning preferences. So, the standard way of learning is sitting down, watching an hour-long video. And they can do that, but they also don't have to be chained to their desks. They can listen to the lesson as a podcast. They can read it like a book. And we've also managed to keep the hands-on components. We shrunk them down a little bit, but it still focuses on instinct and judgments and running into problems and solving them. And we've also managed to maintain a bit of a social aspect to the learning through our Slack community and through direct coaching from our course instructors without having it take more than a handful of otherwise billable hours per week. So that was kind of like the course journey.
So you went through this kind of long journey to create a program. I want to, before we dive into, again, a little bit more of the playbook of what you teach these agencies and these projects managers and how we level up, like, what was the tipping point for you where you said, you know what, I'm going to move away from being in an agency and being a project manager myself to now teaching project managers? Like, did you wake up one morning and it's like, this is what I'm going to do? Or like, what happened exactly that kind of led you down this path?
I mean, for me, it was scope of influence. I mean, when you work at an agency and you're a bit of a go-getter, then you can impact that agency positively. And, we could make local change, but it was bigger than that for us. I thought, how can we impact many people? It's not exactly something that we could productize within an agency and offer to other agencies, at least not at the time. So how can we have more of an impact? And, at the time, it was just a transitional period in my life as well, where, I wasn't looking to exit the agency game. In fact, I went on, and I worked at a couple of the larger consultancies and just found myself craving this opportunity to help teach people. Like our fundamental vision is, as vague as it may sound, but it means something to us. We want to help people and organizations win at work, because honestly, all the jobs are tough, especially in the agency world. All those agency jobs are tough, and there isn't enough knowledge sharing happening to help everyone level up their game. When I was coming up, there was a lot of, not cloak and dagger, but a lot of protectiveness around, some secret sauce for each agency, our methods, our templates, our people, our culture. But I didn't see the rest of the industry sort of incrementing up. And it looked like definitely project management as a profession, especially in an agency context, could use a bit more education, could use a bit more of a lift, because there was fundamentally a mismatch of expectations. Typically, an agency leadership team is seeing project managers as folks who are a bit of a cost center. They're not specialists. We need them because projects are our engine room, right? It's coal into the fire, but they just keep things on track. And project managers were feeling undervalued. They thought, we could be more strategic, but all we do is kind of like take notes at meetings, like maintain a timeline and make sure things are getting done. But we can do more. And we saw that there was a gap to be closed, because there's somewhere in the middle as well, which is that agency owners and operators can expect more from their project managers, should expect that they understand the business context and the business language and why an agency, should grow, and how each project and each relationship actually fuels that. And on the other side, a lot of project managers, even when they do get formally trained, they don't get trained on the business side of things usually. Yeah, a bit of business, but mostly like the technical skills, right? The planning skills, estimating skills, right? The sort of team management, methodologies, types of things. And there is this gap where we're like, you know what? Everyone could be doing better. Agencies can be growing faster. Project managers can be getting more rewarded in their careers. There's actually a path sort of beyond just whatever senior project manager or director of client services that can really contribute to the business. So I don't know. That's my long-winded answer to say, listen, we wanted to just be able to impact the industry, not just like each individual agency.
So what have you learned? I mean, what have you've helped 700 plus agencies at this stage, and you've kind of created a playbook for these agency project managers, or project managers in agencies, I should say, to kind of level up, be more autonomous, impact the bottom line in the business a little bit more than just kind of hitting deliverables and deadlines. So walk me through what that playbook looks like. What are the 5 steps or 3 steps, or what it exactly does, if you were to take that into a playbook, which of course you have, what does that look like? Walk it high level, walk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, foundationally, our first lesson is about the business context and the role of a project within a business. What it means to get a return on investment, why that's important for an agency or an organization if they want to grow. And we kind of dispel some of those myths that, a project manager is, an administrator. They're actually someone who can lead a project. They actually are responsible to lead a project. They are the conductor of the orchestra, and they are making things happen so that there is coal in the fire for the agency to grow, and so that they are representing their team's work in the best light, and kind of getting away from all of the sort of technical side of things of like, what's your day-to-day look like? How are you doing your status reports? We cover that later on. But foundationally, we need to start with the context and an understanding of the business, and then move it through towards conflict management when things go wrong, how to keep things from going wrong or keep things from getting worse if they have gone wrong, and really like diving into agency politics, diving into tough stakeholder relationships and how to navigate negotiations and escalations, and really the kind of tough stuff, the problem solving, because it's easy when a project goes right, but no project goes completely right every time. And I think we dispel that myth and we arm our learners with the ability to deal with that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was recently speaking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about leadership, and part of one of the biggest traits of a leader that most people don't really think about and don't put in the books is a really good leader actually embraces and learns how to handle conflict really well. Because even as a project manager, you're a leader. You're managing this project at the end of the day. You're communicating with the client, And there will be conflict. There will be conflict somewhere, whether it's within the team, whether it's with two team members that, back and forth, whether it's deadlines and you and a team member, or whether it's the client. There's going to be some conflict somewhere. And if you can't figure out how to embrace that, if you can't figure out how to really control that, most people hate conflict. I find that real leaders actually embrace conflict. So it's good that you kind of focus on teaching on that. So what else is there that a project, let's flip it from the project manager side now to the owner's side. So as an owner, what am I looking for? What am I thinking about when I'm trying to level up my project managers?
Love that. And you asked me something earlier about what have I learned, and this kind of popped into my head. This won't be a foreign concept, but I'll put it into a project perspective. But there's this sort of notion of this sort of growth disconnect. Like as you grow, that sort of original vision, that original sort of mission, it gets a little bit blurry, lower down on the ladder. And one thing that I learned along the way that surprised me, actually, we came to this realization that, a lot of the time for agency owners who are also sort of the entrepreneur, the founder, they were the first project manager. They were the person out there hustling, delivering, make sure it was high quality, making sure that it's going to be profitable so that they can go and like take on their next project and grow and grow and grow. And then I think by the time they make that first PM hire, it's often not in the same spirit. It's often out of necessity. And I think the way you kind of framed it at the beginning is exactly the mindset, is how can I get project delivery off my plate? But what I found was that actually they take the sliver of quote unquote project delivery, and they're like, yeah, all the sort of paperwork, administrative, talking to the team, talking to the client, just make sure it's all this thing. It's like just manage the project. They take that thin layer and they hand it over to the project management team without realizing that a lot of their success was about the passion for what they do, right? They started this business and they were probably doing the work and delivering the work and growing the business all at the same time. And they had this fundamental business like understanding, this context, and they knew exactly what the growth trajectory would be and where it was taking them. And then you hear stories from like agency practitioners and they're like, yeah, we're just lining the owner's pocket so they can buy a yacht. And like, it's not that. I mean, maybe for some it is, but I think a lot of the time it was a passion project that grew. And it needs to kind of continue to grow in order to be a successful, viable business, to create and support livelihoods for the people working within that ecosystem. And it is part of a bigger vision of delivering, high quality work that's worth paying for. And that gets lost in translation a lot of the time, especially for project managers. And so from an agency owner standpoint, I've been encouraging folks to just remember that they were probably delivering work. And what was it that made that so successful? It probably wasn't just an ability or an understanding of how projects get delivered. It was an understanding of the work, of the relationships, of the business. And when you can instill that into your project management team, then they are empowered to go and understand what their mission is. And the task is completely different than just delivering a project. Their blinders are opened and they can start understanding their role in growth. And when they understand that, then their decision-making is completely different. It's like, how can I protect the agency? How can I protect my team members? How can I protect a client relationship? Because it's bigger than just my project. And the more that an agency owner can create that ecosystem, create that environment, then the more that they can trust their project management team to deliver and not have to like a hawk kind of sit close to the projects and be in the trenches and get ready for that escalation or get ready to be told that, the budget is getting, eaten away more quickly and it's not going to be as profitable. You can sort of back away from that and focus on the other stuff, the growth stuff.
Yeah. What's interesting about what you just said is, we're in a world right now that is so obsessed with automation, so obsessed with systemizing AI. Everything is about how do I reduce the human workload and basically use computers, use software, use automation to automate as much as possible. And I find that a lot of times as owners, we hire people because we want them to do a task repetitively because we just don't have a software alternative at this moment, right? And we need to stop treating humans as, software alternatives or basically the non-autonomous robots, because if they start to buy in, if they have, it's humans who have the capacity of really truly moving the needle in the business. They're the ones who come up with the ideas. They're the ones who kind of drive things forward. If they don't understand the vision and they're just put into a role and you just do this thing. You are the project manager. You communicate with the client, send them an email back and forth, send them the report, make sure the hours are billed, follow up if they haven't paid. That's your job. Now people like start to resent it, and it doesn't work. So that makes a lot of sense. As we come up on time right now, I want to know, as we always do with this show, because we are marketers after all of us listening to this are marketers. I'm a marketer. You're a marketer. You've ran and been in agencies. What is your number one growth tactic? What is, we all like shiny tactics as marketers. What is your number one growth tactic that if you could recommend to any business, if they did this one thing, it would truly help? What is that for you?
I'm glad you asked that. And I'm glad you raised the automation thing before. I would say that our sort of superhero skill is around SEO in the best way. So search engine optimization. And a lot of agencies are looking at that, from the lens of like content marketing, right? It's like content that will lead people down a funnel, build trust, and eventually convert. And sure, we do that. But I think the thing that really turned the corner for us was that we stopped treating it as content marketing, and we started treating it as just giving knowledge away for free, that is authentic, that is accurate. And we knew that was going to be a bit more of an investment. I see a lot of shops where, yes, get a copywriter, they're going to do some research, get an SEO person, they're going to optimize that article so that it gets discovered on Google, and off we go. And we're seeing that getting disrupted pretty heavily right now. And we've immunized ourselves a little bit, maybe by accident, but we haven't seen that hit in our business. Our website will get between 3 and 5 million visits annually. And our approach to content has been to invest a little bit more into it, work with actual subject matter experts, give them the support from our editorial team to kind of find that angle, to structure their communication, their lesson, their message in a really refined way. Work with our designers to create something that's high quality and easily understood, right? Infographics and what have you. And layer on the SEO teams to make sure that we are still optimized for discoverability in search. But we've approached it more as a sort of balance of just having authentic content that we've invested into that is the value. It's not just this commodified resource that is, dime a dozen. And that's actually what, is getting rewarded a little bit more, at least not punished by the algorithm right now, in terms of just having just like the same old repetitive, predictable structured content with generic information in it, hoping that someone's going to convert because they trusted that you had the right answer, but actually going a level deeper and investing in that so that it is authentic. It is, a real person's actual point of view, their actual knowledge, something that's not going to be found in any large language model or ChatGPT or anything like that. And that is sort of where we've hung our hat. And I think what has done us favors in terms of, what does the future of search engine marketing look like in a world where some of the AI generated stuff, some of the commodified, generic, sort of machine written things, are actually, falling away from the SERP, right? The search engine results page is not rewarding all this generic content anymore. It's about actually collaborating, finding ways for people to share their knowledge authentically, share their personal stories, and packaging it in a way that is useful to them.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see. We can have a whole other topic and a whole other show on this, but it's going to be very interesting to see how AI impacts SEO, impacts content, because the more that things move towards AI, the easier and faster people will just start using AI for research, right? They're just going to ask a question and get the answer, in which case now all of that organic traffic starts to die because people get the answer right then and there. I've already, my research level on Google when I search something has gone down significantly because I first go to ChatGPT to get my answer. And if ChatGPT can't give me something as detailed as I want it, then I'll go and do some more research. But typically I get my answer pretty quick. So that's going to be an interesting world for sure. We won't dive into that world today. We're going to wrap up today. Galen, thank you so much for sharing your tips on how both agency owners and project managers can level up. Where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, just check us out on our website, thedigitalprojectmanager.com. We've got loads of resources there. You can learn more about our course and our community. Also, we're on Instagram at the digital PM, and find us on LinkedIn. Also, I'll give you the link because it's a long link, but we're on YouTube. We apply that same philosophy. We try and have fun with serious stuff, with nerdy stuff like project management. We make some funny videos. We make some really useful well-researched videos. So you can check us out there. Find me on LinkedIn and let's connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your point of view. And we'll chat very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.